of the file names. You could go with a last-minute donation. Currently, you'd have to donate $10.01 to beat the second place file name. Other than that, there's still the bid war for classic or remake soundtrack for La Mulana. That run will be tomorrow at noon Eastern. And the current score there is $10 for the remake versus $3 for the classic soundtrack. Other than that, our donation total is very high. Thank you to everybody who's been donating. Although, like you mentioned, Supreme, it has kind of slowed down a little bit here. So it sounds like Supreme has something in mind.
So if you guys have ever watched Donkey Kong Country 2, there's a bit of RNG with one of the bosses, Crow, and how many fake eggs. And I know my boy Antilles here, among others, with charity events, have a little thing where they'll donate for, you know, $5 for every fake, $10 for every fake, whatever it may be. When my screen pops up here, you'll see me in front of Bleak. If you've never seen this speedrun before, there's actually a one-frame trick where you can skip Bleak. So what I'm throwing down is for every time I fail Bleak up to, for me, I'll probably do, I think, 7 times. I won't be too merry if I fail it more than that. I'm going to donate $10 for every fail that I have.
Whoa.
And I want you guys to pledge with me. It can be anywhere from 1, 2, 5, however much to go with me here. And I'm not going to try and fail this intentionally. Please don't get me wrong. This is a one-frame trick to skip a boss. So believe me, I don't want to, you know, drop $70 because I can't press start at the right time. So that's my challenge to you guys. I'm going to do my best.
Okay, so now hold on just a minute here, because I think we've got Suzuri's game up at the moment. So stay on the screen for just a minute so people who aren't familiar with the game might be able to associate what you're talking about here. But I guess it's essentially your own version of Call Your Shot.
Yeah.
There we go.
So if I'm a god gamer and I can press start on the right frame first try, you guys are off the hook.
There we go.
If you make this pledge.
Now I don't want to say that it's rigged, but I have heard rumors that Supreme is known to throw in cases like this just to get more donations.
Let me tell you, if I throw, it's not intentional.
Okay. I believe you. I was just trying to add some lore to it there.
So I'm on
the lore runs deep in this game.
That's right. We have Claude in here, by the way, as well now.
The legendary, the Claude here in the flesh, here to commentate Donkey Kong Country 3.
Speaking of lore.
And I'm the lore master as well, that's right. I put way too much time in this game, so least I can do is talk about it for 50 minutes.
You may have ruined this game for me, but, you know.
This game's... When I first picked up this game, it was definitely a lot more fun to play than it is now, I'll put it like that. But yet, many heroes have stuck with it, including these two here today, so I applaud them.
Anyways, I'm going to drop so I can focus on the race. Have fun, you guys.
Good luck, man.
All right, we'll see you, Supreme. All right, give us just a minute here, folks, while we try and set up the game audio. Okay, so I'm going to cut off the bid war here for file name. And we have these file names that will be used. With $310, Supreme, your file name is RDD. And with $10, Suzuri's file name is B-Boss, as in Big Boss.
Suzuri entering the color code, get some alternate Kongs here.
Yeah, whenever I've seen him stream this game, he always uses the alternate colors. Kind of his trademark. I've always been an original color guy myself.
It never goes well for me when I use alternate colors. But this time of year, especially if I'm playing 103, it's Merry Code all the way.
Oh man, there's a lot of people that don't like that code because the music gets repetitive real fast.
That's true for any hundo category in this series. So how you doing tonight, Claude?
I'm doing fine. I'm here to watch some Donkey Kong. It's always a good time when I watch some Donkey Kong. And we're about to get started.
Looks like it.
How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Glad to be here with you on this particular game.
Yeah, how much experience do you have with this game anyways?
I've got like a 54 in any percent, so not great, but enough that I know what I'm looking at. So the first thing you saw there was they skipped some text from Wrinkly Kong. Basically by holding left and B as the screen loads, you get to skip a bunch of dialogue, save some time.
Yeah, it's called Wrinkly Skip. You can already see a little bit of difference in the time so far. It's because Supreme is playing on Virtual Console, the most fastest of all the virtuals consoles out there. And World Record for this game is actually now on Virtual Console by quite a margin. In fact, it's so good that it can actually be gotten on Super Nintendo, but no one cares about that. Talk about the actual game.
Yep, and the first thing you're going to want to notice is that for pretty much all of Worlds 1 and 2, there's going to be warps, developer-intended warps in every single stage, just to kind of help experienced players get through the game a little bit quicker, get into the real action. This same thing shows up in Donkey Kong Country 2, but what you won't see here is any wrong warps. There's nothing like that in this game, so they're just doing everything the intended way for the first couple worlds.
Actually, as I checked the leaderboards, it looks like Supreme actually plays on Super Nintendo now. For the longest time, he played on Virtual Console. I think maybe he actually made the switch, so maybe I misspoke.
I think he switched when he went to J. I know he has a J cart. I don't know what he's done a lot on, but since I think everybody at AGDQ is going to be playing on Super Nintendo, I think that's probably why he's been working on it there.
Oh, good man, good man. Saw the light.
Yeah, it'll definitely make the game switching easier. And I guess on that note, Claude and I here are two of the three commentators that we'll have for the Donkey Kong Country Trilogy race. And these two players will both be participating in that as well, anchoring their respective teams. So you're getting a little taste of AGDQ here. So get raindrop dry there.
Yeah, there's really nothing going on in World 1. It's just about how fast you can do the warps. Like, the difference between, like, a really good World 1 and a really bad World 1 is, like, going to be, like, 2 seconds at the maximum.
Yeah, the boss coming up here is the first of the many very strange bosses in Donkey Kong Country 3. A giant barrel that belches, Belcha by name, and they're just going to try to, as quickly as they can, just drop these beetles right into his mouth.
If you actually miss the cycle here, it does cost quite a bit of time. It's like 8 or 10 seconds or so. Oh, and Suzuri misses it. Yeah, you can see
Commentator's curse in action.
Yeah. So you can't just kill him right away. You're going to have to get another beetle. and put it in his mouth.
Yeah, and it almost always not only loses the time in waiting for another beetle, but he's gonna move to the left a little bit more, which means 2 beetles won't be enough.
Interesting. It looks like Suzuri's playing on 1.0. Like, one of the very few differences between 1.0 and 1.1 in this game is just in that boss and how quickly the screen fades to black after you beat him. On 1.1, it fades to black a little bit faster and stays like a half second, but I noticed it didn't fade right away for Suzuri.
Well, now I'm gonna have to see if I need to return my cart.
Yeah, if you really need that half second, go ahead. It's like the only difference.
Obviously, I do. Yeah.
This
So
level's up pretty interesting. Like, the warp's like a quarter of the way through the level here instead of like right at the beginning.
Yeah, memorizing the pattern to move through those minkies that are throwing the coconuts or acorns or whatever it is at you is a little bit tricky at first. They know exactly when to jump and where to climb and which side of the rope to be on. So a lot more technical stuff there than it might appear. So what was it that made you take this game a little more seriously, Claude? It's definitely seen a lot of work, I know, in the last year and a half between yourself and DG's and several others too.
The main thing that drew me to it was just the fact that like it wasn't really like super optimized at the time, and like no one had even like taken it seriously. The only one who put like a significant amount of effort when I picked it up was probably Nocturne, but everyone else before that, like they didn't have real strats, and like you could clearly tell that it needed some work. So I put in a lot of time optimizing everything, and then DG's came along and helped a lot with figuring out everything as well. It was quite the journey over the past year and a half.
Yeah, you guys had a pretty interesting world record battle going back and forth there for a while, probably earlier this year. And now, of course, Sweet Mind has come along and sort of demolished all of that.
Yep. He is the greatest of all time now. Like, even if he didn't play on Virtual Console, his run's definitely better than mine, so props to him.
And speaking of Nocturne, he's, of course, the 3rd runner in our marathon relay.
Yeah, he's very good, very old school player. He doesn't really play too often these days, but when he does, like, you can tell he's like still really good at the game.
Oh yeah, he makes DKC3 look like DKC2.
Yeah. Here is Arik, probably one of the hardest bosses in the run. Getting a quick kill on him optimally is pretty tough, especially when you're first starting out. You have to just go down, hit him with the barrel as you're coming down with it. Looks like both players did pretty well.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating to try to learn that. One of the things I think that makes this game really frustrating to learn is that Game Saver doesn't work with it. So I had to learn it on Wii U VC to get the save states, but then the input delay differences made it a little harder to switch over to Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I had to learn this game on emulator for the same reason, just for save states.
But they're on to World 3 now, which is when the game really gets going. One thing to notice that differentiates this a little bit more from the other 2 DKC games is that the world map is a little bit more involved, and there's a lot more NPC involvement.
And you also have to drive your boat, which is much more difficult than it looks. It's actually a little bit easier to steer the boats on the Japanese version compared to the North American version. So now that any percent is fastest on Japanese, it's a little bit easier in that regard.
It went back and forth for a long time, like which version was faster. Like the J version has quicker load times than the U version, but U had better tricks for the longest time until fairly recently. The bleak skip that Supreme was talking about earlier became a thing.
Yeah, North American version had Chaos Quick Kill, which you won't be seeing here because it's not possible in Japanese. But yeah, bleak skip renders that obsolete because skipping a 1 minute, 10-second boss is pretty good.
Especially when that boss is bleak.
Yes, one of the most RNG heavy bosses in the series. Other than Crow, I guess.
So coming up on the next sections, you're going to see a damage boost from Supreme to try to skip going around to the left. They'll take a hit from one of these intentionally to launch Dixie up onto the rope.
Yeah, this is a little bit scary. If you don't time your jump correctly, you can get bought free by the fireball, or the cheese ball, as some people like to call it. But he makes it through just fine.
Yeah, it's all about memorizing the movement and being confident that your movement is going to be the right thing. Like so many times I'll go into that last section, and since I'm not quite as experienced at this game, I hesitate, and that tiny bit of hesitating is going to kill you.
So this auto-scroller is fairly interesting. You're going to see Supreme and Suzuri intentionally grabbing the railings up above, and what that does is it increases their speed when they drop back to the floor. That wasn't known for the longest time. Like, it was always thought that it was better to just stay on the ground at all times, but that little speed boost from the railing makes it a little bit faster.
Do they do that every chance they get, or is it just when they're going to down slopes?
It's just in a few specific spots that's faster. It's like there's 2 railings you want to grab at the beginning, and there's one towards the 3/4 of the way in. Like right here, coming up on Supreme Stream. Yeah, there you go.
I see it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't be deceived. Just because this is an auto scroller doesn't necessarily mean that it's free. These guys have put in a lot of work to memorize exactly where to jump, when to grab the railings, when to not, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just like DKC2, there is a fair amount of optimization to be had in this auto-scroller. Although a few of the other auto-scrollers in this game don't really have that same level of optimization. Or rather, you can't really influence the speed of it as much. Including the one coming up right now, which is Sawyer Tree, Ripsaw Ridge.
Yep. So the other thing is you start the game off, you go through the warps, you think you're finally into the game, and then you get 2 auto-scrollers back to back.
2 auto-scrollers back to back. Rare,
Yep.
What were you thinking, man?
What were you thinking? Apparently
like in
these are fun.
In DKC2, they broke them up with Bramble Scramble, and like, you do a wrong warp there now, so they're kind of back to back. But man,
Yeah.
this was like an intentional decision. I don't know what they were thinking, but regardless, there they are. The only piece of tech they can do to make this level go faster, other than beating the stage at the very end as fast as possible, is not killing any rats. Each rat you kill costs 2 frames, so you're going to see them avoiding rats whenever possible, although a few are kind of really hard to avoid, although not impossible.
Yeah. So I mean, that adds up to what, a couple tenths of a second over the course of the stage. So
it's
not
like 0.26 seconds if you don't kill any rats.
Yeah. So not insignificant, but I mean, there's plenty of other
You don't have
places
anything
that are
better
going to
to
lose
do.
time. Yeah, exactly. It's more about just trying to have something to keep your focus on the screen. Interestingly enough, in the 103% run of this game, there is a little zip in this stage, which actually is kind of neat. You can zip up to the first bonus and save about 12 seconds. It's the only zip, I believe, in this game, so it's kind of a cool little footnote.
There are a few zips you can do on the 1.0 version, but sadly none of them are useful for a speedrun.
In before somebody finds it for burn your rope, RTA viable.
That would be pretty cool. You're also going to see them skipping the Kong barrel here. I guess I should mention that. Throughout pretty much all of World 3, you're going to want to stay as just solo Dixie. That's because in the stage coming up after this one, in 3-4, you're going to be entering a few barrels that automatically shoot you up. And in this game, if you have 2 Kongs, you have to wait for both Kongs to enter the barrels before the barrel will shoot you out. So whenever possible, you only want to have 1 Kong in those sections.
And certain parts of the next section are all about timing, or the next stage, I should say, are all about timing and making sure you have the barrels loaded when you think they do, because they're going to do a lot of jumps that are going to depend on them being in the right place to not get hit. So because of that, they are doing this stage as solo Dixie, so it's a little bit scary. Again, they know what they're doing. They shouldn't get hit, but it is a risk.
Oh, Supreme accidentally picking up that barrel. It's a slight mistake. You can't really make too many major mistakes early on in this game. It's mostly just going to be movement errors. The chance of death really doesn't happen until, I'd say, maybe 4-3. Creeping Class, I believe the level is called.
Yep.
But until then, it's going to be pretty safe. Time discrepancies will mostly be due to movement and minor mistakes, not really deaths.
Right. Suzuri is making up, I think, a tiny bit of time after the... Ooh. Pretty nice stage from both players.
Yeah, looks like Suzuri's slowly catching up.
Yeah, he sure is. And now we're on to Low G Labyrinth, which is probably my least favorite stage in this game. It's just so slow and awkward.
Yeah, it's very difficult to optimize as well, especially once you become the parrot.
Yeah, but there are some neat skips in this. One in particular, which we'll see as the parrot.
Looks like neither player are going for the crimp just defend, as I coined it, where you roll into a crimp from the front, and if you press back at the right time, you can just roll through him. Saves a little bit of time, like 0.3 seconds. They call it just defend because it's the same motion as just defending in Gara, Mark of the Wolves. It's a fighting game that no one's really played.
It's interesting that the programmers checked to see which direction you were going as opposed to where on the sprite you hit.
Yeah.
So right here on Supreme's side, and Suzuri's there too, you're going to see him position himself so he can go right between these two buzzers, or bees, whatever. I don't know what they're called in this game. But by being correctly positioned, he's able to skip through it and do it again there between the red bees. Suzuri does it a little faster, and I think he's pulled ahead.
Yeah, if you get hit by the bees there, it costs quite a bit of time because you'll no longer have Dixie in front. You're just going to have solo Kitty, and Kitty takes a long time to hop over those bees. Whereas with Dixie, you can just get a nice little glide over most of them.
Taking slightly different routes, yeah, there, because of that, obviously. So here we're on Chaos, which, as Claude mentioned earlier, is a little bit more interesting in the U version of this game. The team throw hover is actually a really cool trick, and Claude, I believe it was you that perfected a setup for one cycling him. Basically, by team throwing, you can keep your Kong in the air and not fall, and they just stay up there and hit him every single time. But I believe, what is it, the team throw hover doesn't work in J?
Yeah, you cannot do that trick, so therefore you cannot do one cycle chaos. That being said, there is a little bit of tech in this fight in the J version. You're going to see a D boost here. Oh, Supreme misses it, unfortunate.
It's too bad.
Let's see if Suzuri gets it. Alright, he does. He's definitely catching up now. Probably ahead, actually, after that.
Yeah.
So by doing that D boost, you can just skip the 4th cycle of chaos. And there's still more tech to come, actually. What they're going to want to do now is they're going to want to get these blades to spawn on the same side that Kitty is on. I actually don't think you can do it if you miss the D boost, or if you do, you have to do it very differently. So you're probably only going to see it on Suzuri's stream.
Yeah, that saves a little bit of time, maybe a second or so, because you don't have to wait for the blade to come around. Suzuri, you can see he's set up for it there.
Yeah, he didn't get it either. That was strange. And usually if you don't get it on the 5th cycle, you're not going to get it on the 6th cycle either. And it saves 1 second if you get same side blades per time you get it. Yeah, you can see he doesn't even bother setting it up because he's not going to get it. So both players having a rough chaos fight. Suzuri definitely pulling ahead because he got the D boost.
Now we're going into World 4, the water world, Cotton Top Cove. So a lot of swimming here. Some neat speed stuff, though. Some neat damage boosts and movement through some of the vertical stages in particular.
An interesting thing to mention is that in this game, this is the only Donkey game where this applies, is that you can do World 3 and World 4 in any order you want. The reason why Mechanos is done first in the speedrun is that it's just better for the Kong order. But you could do Cotton Top Cove first if you really wanted to. It'd just be a little bit slower.
Yeah, I think officially in the game, Cotton Top Cove is actually World 3, but
that is correct, yeah.
We don't care about that.
All that matters is, are you going fast or not?
So go ahead.
Levels in this game probably not really as complex as, say, Glimmer's Galley and DKC2, but there is a fair amount of tech as far as maintaining your speed by going like little bits in the direction you want to be going before you actually have to go. It's a little bit hard to explain, but you're going to see them like turn around before they go in the direction they're heading. Like you can kind of see Supreme do it there.
Yeah, swimming in this game feels very different than it does in the other two. I'd say the other two probably have more in common. It just feels a little more, I don't know, floaty in this game. So it's weird for me to try to adjust to. A lot of what they're trying to do is make tiny little passes underneath some of these bazas.
Interesting thing to note is that unlike DKC2, both Kitty and Dixie have the same hurt box while swimming. So it doesn't really matter which Kong you have in front as far as whether or not you're going to take damage or not.
That's really interesting because Kitty's so much bigger in the rest of the game.
Yeah, you would think so, right? But while swimming, they're both exactly the same. Although
Anyway.
visually, it's kind of hard to determine where their hitbox is.
Right. So this stage is what I was referring to with some interesting damage boosts. They're going to be able to save quite a bit of time in this by taking hits at the right places.
And this is one of the levels that's actually different between the Japanese and North American versions of the game. It's just a very small difference. It's going to be a different beat pattern towards the end of the stage. So they're going to have to not get hits towards the end so they can get hit at the very end to save the most time. Whereas the North American version, like, you don't even have to worry about getting hit right before the end at all.
So the earlier damage boost was taken with Kitty getting hit, and this one Dixie gets hit. Tiny little differences. They both get a turn.
Yes, take turns climbing up the waterfall, taking damage.
There's going to be a little team throw here to try to skip some movement on some of these vertical ledges right up to that barrel, and basically the end of the stage in a moment.
This beat coming up on Supreme's stream right now is the one that's not there in the North American version.
So yep, Suzuri maintains his lead, still very, very close. Now we're coming up on 4-3, the stage Claude was referring to earlier, which can definitely kill you.
Yeah, this one has some pretty, well, I guess I'm going to say somewhat precise platforming. You jump too late, you're going to ran right into the TNT dude, and he's going to mess you up.
Yep, and so they're not grabbing Kitty here because he lags this stage a lot. Just that one extra spike makes a huge difference.
Suzuri actually getting the midpoint there. Like, even getting the midpoint lags the game, but I guess he's just getting it for marathon safety. Supreme opting not to get it.
Supreme's feeling good. I think right here is one of the few places where you actually have to hesitate.
Yeah, he's getting that roll through all three there. Saves a little bit of time compared to just taking the ropes.
Yep, very nice by both players. That stage feels really nice when you do it quickly and you learn all the correct jumps and such. There's another couple damage boosts. Is it one or I can't remember if it's one or two in this stage, but more damage boosts to save some time in these barrels. They're also going to try to take a few of these barrel shots as get as much distance as they can. There's a couple sections where getting through in 2 shots is a pretty tight window.
Yeah, there is tech where in the section Supreme's in right now, you can make it across in 2 shots, but it's kind of risky and it only saves 1 second. You can actually just glide across that entire area as well and make it through in 0 shots, but that's very risky, although it saves like 3 seconds compared to the method they just did. And on the section on Suzuri's stream right now, that's also different on the North American version. It's much harder to make it across that section without taking damage, but on the Japanese version, it's free.
If there's the damage boost with Kitty. Kitty gets quite the boost when he gets shot into the air.
Suzuri actually messed up that D-boost. You can see on Supreme's stream right now, that's the method you want to do to get across quickly. Looks like Suzuri missed the jump with Kitty onto the D.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to roll off that ledge if you're not used to knowing what you're doing and just land up in the barrel. Feed your fish.
Feed your fish.
Probably one of the more clever stages I think Rare came up with in this game. And really, I mean, you see kind of all the creativity Rare had stored up inside in this whole game. Like, there's lots of levels that just have really weird mechanics you don't find anywhere else. Like auto-scrollers back-to-back and fish that you feed.
Yeah, if you have the same movement every time, the gimmick of the level isn't that impactful, but if you mess it up even slightly, you can kind of ruin your day and force you to slow down unnecessarily to feed the fish.
Yep. In general, the more time you take, if you aren't familiar with it, the fish starts to slowly darken. His face gets sadder. He goes from blue to red, and when he turns bright red, he's going to attack your Kong. So you keep him blue by feeding him fish, and he can also get redder by eating one of the lurchins. So again, their movement is set up so that the fish they need are in their path. He can even eat a couple lurchins if they as long as they know exactly what they're doing.
You could also see them intentionally avoiding DK barrels as well. That's so they can maintain solo Dixie for the first stage coming up in World 5, because that stage also features auto fire barrels. Although I want to think that they're going to grab Kongs just for safety, because 5-1 is really where the chance for death starts to get really high in this game.
Yeah, this game is interesting in that every world, pretty much from here on out, just gets harder and harder and harder. I mean, DKC 1 and DKC 2 have harder end games, but it's much more gradual difficulty curve. This game, once you hit World 5 and especially World 6, it's just like slamming into a brick wall.
Yeah, Worlds 1 through 4 in this game are kind of a pleasure cruise compared to DKC 1 and DKC 2. It's mostly just very movement based. This boss is really weird looking. It's really not too much tech. You just get the water inside of Ellie the elephant and you try and hit his eyes. The only thing you really do to make it go faster is optimal ski grab at the very end. Try and grab the item that the boss pops out as quickly as possible.
I believe this is Ellie's only appearance in any percent, if I remember right.
That is correct, yes. Every other appearance is optional.
Enjoy. Do we even know what Squirt is?
I don't know what that dude is, man.
Somebody, please, help.
Yeah, very close race so far, although that's pretty much to be expected in DKC3. There's not going to be too much variance, but starting World 5, as you mentioned, it's going to probably differ a lot, especially once we get to Bleak.
Yeah, I mean, really no different. No lead is safe up till Bleak skip. I mean, you could have a 2-minute lead even and lose it on Bleak. And remember what Supreme said, for every miss, he's going to donate $10. So please feel free to join in, pick your own amount, $1, $2, $5, whatever you think. Depends how confident you are in Supreme.
Also,
All right,
would like to thank.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just say I want to thank Blunt Bunny for the host there too.
Suzuri not grabbing the Kong to begin the stage, and neither does Supreme actually, so they are going all in on this. So this is the optimal method. This is the fastest way to do the stage. But I would think for a marathon, they do a little bit safer just in case they accidentally ran into one of the class, but they're going all out.
Yeah, if you're not jumping pretty quickly up these ropes, you're going to get hit. So I don't blame them. They both want to win.
Yeah, Suzuri did get the midpoint. I don't believe Supreme did, but yeah, it's the only concession he's making.
Climbing up ropes in this game feels really fun too, by the way.
They are going to grab Kitty towards the end of the stage just so they can do that D-boost, which is very, very slightly faster than just staying as Dixie for the end of the stage. It's actually only faster because it saves times with Kong swapping in the next stage.
So this level is probably my favorite auto-scroller in the whole DKC series. Not that anything about the level itself, I just really like snow levels.
Yeah, this one's pretty good. There's a decent amount you can do to optimize it as well. It's kind of similar to Haunted Hall in that you want to jump up and down slopes to maximize time save.
Snow level is appropriate for much of the United States right now.
Not where I live. I live in Arizona, so...
Oh, yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's appropriate for me, I'll tell you that much. I can't go outside right now.
So there's not too much to say. Both players are doing a pretty good job of doing the proper jumps up the slopes.
I really like bouncing across those Kremlings at the end. It's just fun. I don't know. The little pleasures.
Funny part here is in the North American version, that barrel at the very end does not shoot you as far as it does in the Japanese version
wow.
for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm much more used to you. That's way faster. So here, barrel drop bounce. BDB skip is a trick you'll sometimes hear mentioned, and these guys are going to try to use team throws to skip a pretty significant chunk of the stage.
Yeah, this level is all about team throws.
So the team throw they're going to do coming up here, they're going to team throw off of one barrel, and they're going to try to start another team throw they're going to try to throw at the right time such that they can do another team throw, get to the barrel on top, and then get to the platform over to the side.
Called by some the hardest trick in the game, although it's really not that hard.
No,
once you know how to do it.
Once you learn it, it's all about the timing on when you throw. If you throw too late or too early, you're either not going to gain enough height or you're going to miss the other barrel entirely. But once you know kind of when to throw, it's pretty easy.
All right, this stage features a squidded spider, aka Shoes Spider, but it's really not nearly as hard as Webwoods. Although it's a little bit challenging.
No, it's often called DKC3's Webwoods, but really the only thing they have in common is that you're Squidder. But it's pretty fun. And one thing that's a little subtle difference is that the instant platforms in DKC2 are done by pressing L and R at the exact same time, whereas in this game you can't. You have to wait, I think, at least 1 frame between those presses, so it's more of a really quick LR tap.
Yeah, that's very confusing if you go back and forth between DKC2 and DKC3 a lot.
The biggest thing they're trying to do here is just to try to land right in the middle of some of these strawberry milkshake vats.
Yeah, the middle section can actually hurt you, as you can see right there on Supreme Stream.
But if you're trying to do that without knowing when you start your jump and how long to hold your jump and where to aim, you're going to die. There are a couple safety DK barrels here towards the end, but neither of these guys is going to be going for those.
Yes, because they need Solo Dixie in the next stage. Again, because it drastically reduces the lag if you only have 1 Kong, similar to Creeping Clasps. And Lemguin Lunge is probably one of my favorite levels in the game. It's some very interesting movement and some very interesting, not really deboost, but rolls through the Lemguins to get more speed.
Yeah, Lemguins are very well known for their really difficult hitboxes. Like, you'll get hit sometimes when you're not expecting to. Again, as with Ratley in the previous game, as long as you're moving consistently, that should never be a problem because you're going to end up hitting them at the same place at the same time. But if you get off by a little bit, those Lemguins will get you when you're not expecting it.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the Lemguins actually spawn when you're like way far away from them. Unlike every other enemy in the DKC series, they're actually like very, I don't really know how to say it, remotely based on your position.
Yeah, that's really curious, but that would kind of explain why it's really easy to get off in this stage. Movement errors earlier can have a big impact later on.
All right, we've made it to Bleak, and both players are about tied, but somehow I have a feeling they're not going to be tied after this boss is
Probably not. Here we go.
So what you're going to see is they're going to take damage because they want to die as quickly as possible, because if you press start right as the screen fades to black, they will instantly defeat the boss. And it looks like Suzuri does not get on the first try. Let's see if Supreme does.
It's an audio cue for when you press start. So
Yes,
Mr.
it's
Supreme.
Completely audio based, and it's only 1 frame, so might be here for a while. And this is the trick that everyone hates now, and you have to do it first try, or otherwise you can't get world record.
How many tries is it before it would have been faster to just do the boss?
Well, that's a good question. I want to see you can for sure get a 3rd try and it's faster. 4th, it's probably about even, and 5th is definitely slower.
Still going.
Yep, still going. It's like Supreme's gonna be donating quite a bit to this marathon.
I think he said he would try 7 times before he just did the fight normally. They've got plenty of lives, but I think it could be pretty easy to get on tilt with this.
By the way, this trick is why I did not submit this game for AGDQs to run in the relay, just because like I couldn't do this live.
Suzuri gets it.
All right, congratulations to him. Supreme still trying to get it. Yep, still trying to get it. These players are at home with their own audio setups, so.
Yep. Supreme raising money for the RDD cause right here.
Yeah. It's gonna be even harder when they're at AGDQ with different audio setups, so I don't envy them at all.
Yeah.
But that's
So, I mean,
DKC3 now.
I mean, and I know that all the players are going to be playing on J and are going to be going for Bleak Skip in the relay. So it's actually interesting that this trick could cost. Oh, Supreme gets it. Very nice.
Very
could cost their the whole team a lead. Like if a team has a couple-minute lead, which is certainly possible after 2 full games, Bleak Skip could lose them that whole lead.
Yeah, like nothing matters at all until Bleak Skip is finished in the relay. So look forward to that at HDQ.
Yep. I'll probably come up with some kind of donation challenge similar to that for people.
Alright, but they've both made it through, fortunately. Now they're in this stage featuring Midpoint Parrot, who is now able to fly on his own, although he can't shoot out little pellets like Green Squawks can. This is actually a pretty interesting movement-based level. Optimal flying and cornering is pretty difficult.
Yeah, the walls kind of don't exist where they look like they do in this stage. You can go pretty far before the wall actually has a hitbox. I think this stage might be the one I spent the most time learning when I first started this game. It's not the most difficult, but there's just so many different sections that kind of look alike that it's hard to remember exactly where you need to fly and when.
Suzuri actually properly keeping track of his Kong order there. Depending on which Kong you finish Bleak with, you want to do different strats at the end to make sure you have Dixie coming out of the stage. I wouldn't blame Supreme if he has no idea like which Kong he is now because he spent so long on Bleak. But you're going to want to see them get hit towards the end and then grab an invisible DK barrel to fix their Kong order if need be. Looks like Supreme is not doing that, so maybe he knows he already has Dixie in front by the end of the stage. No,
Nope, Kitty.
He forgot. Totally understandable. Like he was in the Bleak Infinite forever, so I don't blame him at all.
But now we're on to Burn Your Rope.
Burn your rope.
Much to see here. One thing runners like to do in this game is give a Burn Your Rope update where they talk about how their run is going. And usually they say it's garbage and leave it at that.
That's normally how my updates go, yeah. And unlike other auto-scrollers in the DKC series, there's nothing you can do to speed this level up at all. Like, you can't reduce lag, there's like nothing special, except being the stage as fast as possible. And there is a little bit of tech towards the end. Not sure if they're going to go for it, though. It only saves like a half second.
If you watch the tasks of this, though, there is a zip in this stage, but I don't know what the mechanics are, but everything I've heard says it's no way it's RTA viable.
Yeah, so what you have to do is, like, you have to climb the rope off screen. And I believe the inputs are 1 frame each time. If it's not 1 frame, it's just like very, very difficult. And you have to do like 20 or 30 of those in a row to like even get to the zip. So it's never going to happen, RTA.
So because of that, we have many Burn Your Rope updates to look forward to. I don't know, I guess Burn Your Rope updated. This is a pretty good race. This is really about everything we could have asked for. A couple minor lead changes here and there throughout the first part of the game, and then Bleak sort of separated them, but not by enough to really decide the race, which is kind of what we hoped for.
Yeah, World 7, this game is interesting. It's not super difficult, but World 7 is like super chokeable is the word I want to use. Like every single stage you can just choke your run away and die or something similar to that. So well, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I'd say casually, World 7 is probably the hardest world in Donkey Kong Country. Speedrun, not so much, but because of that, it's more difficult by design, I guess, is what makes it so hard.
And there's also an RNG element in 7 too, with the barrels and such. But we'll talk about more when we get there. Looks like Suzuri did not do the tech to save a half second at the end of the stage, just going for a safer finish.
Yeah, is it likely to mess up and die if you miss it?
No, not really, although it can be kind of awkward to re-grab the rope if you do it incorrectly.
Yeah, this would be one of the worst stages ever to die in, I think. But we're on to Floodlit Fish, which is the stage that's why I still hate the fish in DKC3. Even though he's super strong and wrecks everything, they had to go and put him in a stage where there's things that can still kill him, and he somehow still always gets hit.
Yeah, it's actually pretty hard to take damage with this on guard. Unlike DKC2, on guard's like hitbox is like his entire body, and he's pretty much fully invincible while thrusting. But that being said, if he attacks one of the Lurchins while they're fully closed, he will still take damage. But only if they're like fully closed. Like you'll see him attack the Lurchins when they're just like barely open, and he'll still hit them.
Yeah, I think every player has a slightly different setup for this stage. They try to time it such that they end up with the lurchins where they can hit them. So hesitating at the right places, charging at the right places, it sets up the lurchins. So I really would not expect to see, well, Suzuri's through it, but I wouldn't expect to see Supreme take a hit on those lurchins either. He knows what he's doing.
Hey, I've got a donation here quick if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Of course.
We have $70 from Cassis B, and the quote is "Stupid snowman." Looks like somebody played along with the game.
Stupid snowman.
Looks
Thank
like
you, Cassis
Suzuri
B.
was going. Sorry, Suzuri was going for parrotless there. He did not get it, so we actually have to go back and grab the parrot. It's going to cost him a little bit of time. It only saves like a half second, if that, to skip getting squawks on the stage. I'm interested to see if Supreme will go for it. But Pop-Hole Panic's an interesting level. Actually, one of the harder stages in the run. Just purely due to the complexity of the movement in the stage compared to every other level in the game.
Yeah, all the animal buddies really make a lot of variety. Supreme not going for it, so it makes up a tiny bit of time there. I've heard the movement is pretty similar to Luckjaw, is that right?
Yeah, actually it is, but it's actually a lot easier. Suzuri rather, getting that water bounce into the barrel and having a pretty good ending to Pothole. But now we're coming up to the infamous 2-1 jump here.
Yep.
2-1 jump is a trick also found in DKC2, but it's actually a little bit easier. And Suzuri said he hates this trick, like he really hates this trick, but he's going for it. If you get this first try, it saves 10 seconds compared to doing the stage normally. And he gets it in a fair amount of tries. I think that was like 5th or 6th try. Supreme also getting the water bounce and Pothole Panic.
Yeah, it's a much more noteworthy trick in this game too. Not only is it harder, but it actually saves a lot of time, whereas any 2-1 jump in DKC2 is pretty minimal.
Yeah. And now we see Supreme going into it. This trick's really annoying, and again, it is 1 frame. It's funny, when I picked this game up, this game had no 1-frame tricks in 8%. Now it has 2 that are very important to get first try. Otherwise, your run becomes very bad.
I think that was 16 or so for Supreme. I might have lost count, but yeah, not as good. That one's a little more in your control than Bleak Skip, though. Now, you see Suzuri doing some interesting tech here on Barbos. By lining himself up at kind of the right vertical position and then timing his charges, he's able to clip into Barbos and not take damage from the lurchins on the side, and then cause the little missiles to hit him even earlier than they otherwise would and get through that really quickly.
Also, that hit at the end was intentional. It was to fix his Kong order, so he has Solo Dixie going into 7-1. Simply because he needs Solo Dixie for 7-2, because there's a lot of auto fire barrels in that stage.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, all of the different things about 7, the different design and the chokeability of it make this a really interesting world to play and to watch. Like, every level's a little bit different, has pretty interesting challenges, and anything could really happen at any moment.
Yeah, Suzuri going into Conveyor Rope Clash, with the level's called. So the level is very easy to die in if you just jump at the wrong time. You only have 1 Kong and you're moving very fast on the ropes, and there's a lot of bees in your way. Oh, looks like a Supreme messing up the tech there and had to actually use the homing missile to attack Barbos there.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy with how many Bleak Skips and then 2-1 jumps and then, of course, this. So he's going to have to try to gather himself before World 7 and hopefully not let those mistakes carry over.
Looks like Suzuri's going all out as well, not getting any safety Kongs. I respect that. Doing a slightly safe-ish ending for this stage, but it makes it through unscathed.
So coming up on 7-2, as Claude mentioned earlier, this is probably the biggest source of RNG in this game now that Bleak is gone. These barrels can spawn facing any direction, so ideally they'll spawn the direction that they want to shoot right away, but it could take really any amount of time.
Yeah, you can see Suzuri reacting improperly there. Thought he saw the barrel was facing the right way, but it wasn't. The difference between the worst possible luck and the best possible luck you can get in the stage is honestly like about 10 seconds, which is pretty huge for a donkey game, and especially considering it's like this late on the run. So it's pretty unfortunate this level exists like it does for a speedrun.
Other than that, it's not too difficult. It's all about just knowing where to jump, where to roll, like everything else in all of these games.
An interesting thing to note is that the position that the barrels are facing is not actually frame-based. It's just based on a seed. I actually tried to map out all the seeds for the barrel spawns, but like there's way too many to actually be able to like recognize them and know where they're going to spawn you.
Donkey science in action.
Oh no, Suzuri missing the final barrel. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. This one might be the most frustrating. It seems like it takes long on purpose sometimes just to screw with you.
I'm actually an old man. I have to pause buff for the final barrel just to see, just make sure it's facing the right way before I go in.
Shameful.
Yeah.
The damage boost through the end looks a lot closer than it actually is. As long as you hit the Bs and roll the right way, you're going to get it every time. But the iframes like wear out a little bit before like the actual invincibility does, so it looks kind of scary.
Yeah, invincibility frames in this game are actually pretty huge compared to the other two Donkey games. But yeah, Suzuri now onto the lightning lookout. This level is actually very interesting. The lightning is not random, despite what you may have heard or seen in the past. It's actually easily, well not easily, but manipulatable, such that they'll know where the lightning spawns as long as they keep the same movement every time. And it looks like Suzuri is so far on the correct manipulation.
Yeah, in that sense, the lightning is pretty much just like any other fixed enemy. You know exactly where it's going to be and when it's going to be there. Until, of course, you take a hit you're not planning to.
Yes, exactly. Or even if you just make like a slight movement mistake, like you can lose the manipulation completely. But Suzuri keeps it all the way through. Very nicely done.
But even in that case, like once you know how the lightning behaves, you might be off of your manipulation, but you're still not going to really be caught by surprise by it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Coin Dozer Clamor is a really interesting level. I think this is a really fun level. There's a lot of neat platforming, really cool rolls and jumps, but one bad move and these Coin Dozers are going to knock you right into a pit.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit funky how they interact with the Kongs. Like, you can think you're on top of them, but like if you approach them at an angle, they'll just push you off anyways.
I think we talked about it during one of the DKC2 races, how we had a donkey festival a few years ago that one of the challenges was something about swag balloon in DKC2, but there was a DKC3 challenge, which was to do this stage with Solo Kitty, which as you might imagine is pretty difficult.
That was a tough one to learn for the festival, yeah. Suzuri making it through just fine, though.
So not a ton of time left for Suzuri to make a mistake, but unlike the other DKC games, the final boss of this stage is actually really important to do correctly in a speedrun. It's not just a cutscene. There's a lot of stuff you have to do just right to make sure you're speeding it up. So it's a pretty worthy final boss, I'd say.
Yeah, DKC3 K-Roll, easily the hardest K-Roll out of the series, like by far, especially if they go for task K-Roll, which saves 5 seconds. I'm not sure if either player is going to do that. But looks like Supreme's probably going to have to go for it if he wants any chance of catching up. Because Poison Pipeline, which stage Suzuri's in now, probably the only stage in World 7 where it's pretty unlikely you're actually going to die, although you can lose a little bit of time.
Yeah, the gimmick here is that the controls are actually reversed. If you remember from the end of DKC2, the purple cloud that K-Rool shoots out reverses your controls. So purple means backwards in this series.
Suzuri's taking a bad hit there, but fortunately there's a DK barrel along the way. He's probably going to swap, maybe? Yeah, just to get Dixie there. Again, their hitboxes are the same, but visually it's much easier to see where Dixie's is, so...
So Kitty's is smaller than his sprite?
Yes, exactly. Kind of like Toho. Sprite, the actual hurt box is much smaller than the animation character.
That's nice of them to make Kitty smaller instead of Dixie bigger.
Yeah.
Anyways, K rule. So again, not completely over. If there's 2 phases to K rule. First, you have to fight Chaos again. Pretty easy to do with Kitty. Just position yourself to get the barrel to spawn on the side you're hoping for, and do that little team throw. But then he wants to use Dixie for the second part. And if he takes a hit and loses Dixie, it's going to be a lot slower. Actually, he'll be dead, I think. Or does it force you to get the DK barrel? I guess it forces it.
If you lose Dixie, like, it's pretty much over. Like, you can still beat the fight as Kitty, but it's just so slow that you're probably better off just suiciding, getting Dixie back. Because unlike DKC2, no more DK barrels spawn throughout the fight. Like, the one you see at the beginning is the only one you get.
But it's really cool to watch when done correctly, and I expect that it will be.
The interesting thing here is that this K-roll bouncing you see right now is actually random, and where he spawns can cost a little bit of time. If you want him to spawn or stop bouncing as close to the floor as possible.
We do have one more donation here.
Yeah, go ahead.
$10 from Rambling Josh, and the comment is Danky Kang.
Danky King. Why is he Kitty?
I have no idea what he's doing here. Is this an alternate strategy? I have no idea. I don't know about.
Is he watching the race and wants to make it a little closer? This is weird.
Maybe this is like an interesting setup for Task K-roll, like where you deboost on purpose. It's the only thing I could think of. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, interesting strategy. So yeah, he's not doing the proper Task K-roll, but this is definitely faster than doing it normally. He's just going to take damage on purpose, and that's why he's going to grab the lever a little bit earlier. Interesting strat.
So that probably loses a second for the Kong switch, maybe? I don't know about the movement.
Ideally, you just want to glide with Dixie and grab the lever. It's actually like a 5-frame window, so it's not super difficult, but I guess you wanted the guaranteed safer strat. And Suzuri takes it very nicely done. Actually getting a 49, which is really, really good for no reset.
Yeah, awesome time. Anything under 50 is really, really strong in this game.
Yeah, especially considering the majority of the time loss was to Blake. Like, other than Blake, that run was like very, very, very good.
Bleak and Belcha.
Yeah, Blake and Belcha. That's it, yeah. So let's see what Supreme does here. He's just gonna go for the normal strat, okay.
A little more traditional. You can actually see pretty clearly why what Suzuri did was faster.
And I believe Supreme had a very nice run as well, other than Bleak, so, and the 2-1 jumps, I guess.
Yeah, I can't remember if did either of them have any deaths at all?
That's what I'm trying to think. I don't think they did.
That's awesome. It was basically Bleak and the 2-1 jumps are the difference here. Really nice job by these guys.
Dude. They didn't want to play DKC1 because, like, man, it's too many 1-framers for me. Let me play a nice, easy game like DKC3. Then everything changed.
Claude, why did you do that? Why did you change it?
I didn't do it. It was, well, I found the 1 in 6.5. That's true. But man, it was the Tassers that found Bleak skip, not me. Yeah, GG's to both runners. Very, very nice runs, actually. Like, Bleak's an idiot, but other than that,
yeah,
very, very well done.
As close as this was, that was definitely the only real difference was Bleak and 6.5. So let's see, maybe if Supreme wants to jump in here. I don't know if Suzuri would, but see if they have any comments on their run.
I would have to imagine both players are pretty satisfied with their runs. You wouldn't hit a man with glasses, would you? Cranky's texting English.
Obviously, they would.
Yeah.
Cranky's asking for it. Not sure if they're going to come in for a chat. I'm not really seeing any interest in that. So I guess that's up to Golden, whatever you guys would like to do next.
Yeah, I think we have another run ready to go anyway, so we'll just go ahead and proceed there. But thank you guys for the commentary on the race. It was very well explained.
Our pleasure.
Happy to help out, man.
Yeah, and kind of cool to see, Suzuri just getting sponsored, I guess, by JRTA3 and then turning around and paying it back with a run here. So,
yeah, absolutely. Suzuri did benefit from that and will be coming from Japan for AGDQ in the relay and also a bunch of Kirby games.
And then
Very excited to meet him. Very excited to watch
Yes.
both these runners at AGDQ, actually.
yes, I was going to say Supreme too, obviously a big part of both this marathon and JRTA3 as well. So glad to see both of them come back for this. But yeah, thanks again, Antilles and Claude, for the commentary. And up next is our final game of the day. It is A Link to the Past 100%, Andy versus Blunt Bunny. So I believe we will set up for that.